And this is the politics of coalitions and cross-carpeting, the Nigerian Trilemma. Now, most of you have heard about people having dilemmas or dilemma, as some people like to pronounce it. But what we have now is a trilemma. Let me explain. In a dilemma, one is torn between two choices. In a trilemma, however, we don't have two choices. We have a triangular choice to make, either A, B, or C, rather than A, B. First, in Nigeria, when we returned to democracy in 1999, we had the PDP. Over time, amongst other inimical and funny acronyms, the PDP was being described as Baba Deceive the Game as a result of their knack for deception, trickery, thuggery, extrajudicial murderers and decisions, nepotism. They were accused of everything under the sun, including ritualism. Well, over time, APC emerged. The same APC became known as an expired drug, hacking to one APC tablet that we used to take back in the day, even before the war and after the war, and now, of course, being replaced by newer generation drugs. Now, APC itself has had a checkered history thus far. While PDP ran Nigeria for 16 years, APC is going on its 8th year of running Nigeria in the aftermath of military, recent dalliance, so to speak, with militaries. Now, come this other party now. We have the Labour Party, which is the LP, being actually run by a populist leading individual with popularity and a reputation for frugality and so on. Now, this individual is well known to Nigerians in the sense of the fact that he was a governor of Anambra State for 8 years. But we have also had problems with people running with Labour. One of them was Oshomole, who became the Labour governor of Edo State. Of course, he cross-carpeted after coming in with the reputation of Labour. He was a Labour leader in Nigeria. Then there was another Dr. Mimiko, who also came in with Labour and was to fall back into a major party. And now, and the other one, of course, wasn't with Labour, but with the Progressive nonetheless, who now went back into one of these dominant parties that had been supposedly summarily rejected after 16 years of governing Imo State. That was the case, I think. Now, that's the trilemma. So here we are with an individual, the third force, crystallizing essentially on the internet and across the country by basically building castles in the air, because these people have no known structures. They have virtually nobody in the bicameral legislation. In the bicameral legislature that we call the National Assembly, both the lower and the upper houses have probably very few, a handful, if any at all. And states across Nigeria, they have no known structure. So how is this guy going to win 2/3 of Nigeria, of the population, to be able to make this vote? Now, looking at the whole thing, PDP, at one point, I called the two parties flip sides of the same vitiated coin. Now, once you understand that a coin has been vitiated, and on one side is PDP and on the other side is APC, and now we have a third force that is crystallizing, but the third force virtually has no known structures, and the superstructure of the country is now kind of floundering. And what we hear is restructuring, restructure that, restructure this. What we also know is that these calls are coming from the fringes, whereas the first party itself is trying to balance itself and come back. One of the main leaders of that party just denounced the presidential candidate and recanted, but agrees that everything he said, all his criticism against that individual, stands. On the other side, we have an APC leadership, national leadership, that is being basically walloped because on the account of his age. Not only that, he also has this problem of a Muslim ticket, which actually in the real sense should not matter. But in Nigeria matters a lot. Now, talking about religion, one of the visible Christian leaders today talked about having religion take a big seat in the halls of power, taking a seat in the hall. In other words, he wants religion as part of government. I say, no, yet, not at all. No way, brother, or no way, Jose. Now, when you understand that the United States, which is the paradigm of democracy that we're trying to follow to provide good governance to our people in the aftermath of chattel slavery and colonialism, in light of new imperialism and even neo-colonialism, had in the first place bifurcated the church and the state, separated them, you will now understand why we don't want the input of these churches in the center of power, why we should not have it, even when most of us are not educated enough to understand that these two forces ought to be separated. Whereas the religious powers ought to function in the realm of religion, and politics ought to be strictly political. These people want the two meshed, and this is the problem that you have in theocracies, particularly in the Arab world, because of the fact that their religion is not divorced from their politics. They keep running into these dogmatic and creedal issues, which are basically unscientific and sounding more and more rational as the day goes by. Example, Iran. Iran runs essentially a theocracy, and the other ones, wealthy ones like Saudi Arabia, also is a theocracy, where their various leaders cannot separate politics and religion. So in spite of their wealth, you see that those areas are still in turmoil, coming from Yemen and so on and so forth. And now in the case of Nigeria, the religious unrest that we're getting across the board have the unrest we're having from across the board have strong religious moorings, even amongst the Igbos and their various separatist entities. In fact, I don't even like to mention them. Now, most of them are pseudo-Zionists, for the lack of a better word, and indeed, the Igbo fascisti themselves. So you have these extreme elements going on, and whatever is going on here also has worldwide connections to it. Some people make the mistake of thinking that people like Boko Haram, for instance, were homegrown. Well, yes, homegrown, but globally connected. Because as soon as the Mujahideen appeared in the 70s in Afghanistan, the Metasini came here. These are religious organizations whose words and doctrines reverberate across the globe and celebrate their holidays all at once. So their clergymen visit and interact with each other. And once anything happens at the core of those religious organizations in their abodes, it also reverberates in the peripheries. So by the time Mujahideen mutated into Al-Qaeda because of their call from the Wahhabis and the tribe of Quraysh, immediately Boko Haram showed up here. And the problem with Nigeria is that once these global forces emerge in Nigeria, they transmogrify into much more villainous forms and produce the ugliest levels of brigandage. Now, look at what happened to Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda mutated again once more once Osama bin Laden was being tracked and they committed their mayhem, they mutated into ISIL, into the Islamic State in the Levant and Islamic State in Syria. Here in Nigeria, they have also once again mutated into ISWAP. In the meantime, Christian fundamentalists across the world, from the likes of Pat Robertson and his Christian Broadcasting Network and the televangelism which had gripped the extreme right wing of the United States, began to make inroads into Nigeria, and until they have basically captured the minds of the entire populace. Now, put these two extremists together, they will scatter the ship. And we pray that the center holds in Nigeria. And this is the challenge of whoever takes over the mantle of leadership in this wonderful country. They will have to keep the fringes at bay and know how to control their various violent streaks from actually sinking the ship of statecraft, the ship of state. And so it requires another level of statesmanship. I say a re-articulation of nationalism, a new nationalism, the kind of progressive nationalism that will take the civilization, global civilization, into account, that will take how far we have come into account, that will take where we've been, where we are, and where we are going as a people into account, that will take into account those elements that have been destructive and disruptive to statecraft in Nigeria. So that is what we ought to do. Now that we are faced with this trilemma, may God help all of us. May God help the Federal Republic of Nigeria. May God bless the new Nigerians, and may the new Nigerians stand